Not Happy New Year. Welcome to it,
Oops.
everybody.
That
Hello.
year went really quickly.
Wrong kind of wrong kind of theme. There it
Oops.
is. Welcome everybody.
Nice.
Line up, line up. This is the song everybody courtesy of Vicky. She was expecting to sing it, but you find the online version of it. But I don't know. I'd never heard the song myself as a kid. I never had like a
Oh, it's new to me. Welcome, everyone.
You know the song, Wendy?
No, I've never heard it before. You're gonna have it in your mind for hours now.
Yeah, it's gonna be a earworm forever. All right, welcome to it, ladies and gents. Well, this plays on in the background for a while. Fortunately for you guys, you're not watching the YouTube video in the background, and it's hilarious. Anyway, you guys can Google search it. Here comes the Easter Bunny, and here comes our monthly Hodlnots Happy Hour Hangout. Welcome to it. Great to see a lot of you. Some very familiar faces, one or two new faces as well.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us. Yeah, this is the Easter Bunny slash. Oh, I wonder if the Easter Bunny is going to hit tariffs. I wonder if there's going to be import taxes on the Easter Bunny as well, and all those eggs. We're going to get smaller Easter eggs this year, and we're going to be paying a lot more for them. Yeah, okay, hang on. This song is just on repeat. Well, welcome to, ladies and gents. As mentioned, you get a tariff, and you get a tariff, and you get a tariff as well, no style, and that seems to be what's getting dished out besides cakes of hot cross buns and Easter eggs. All right, so yeah, let's do that a little bit. Cool, there we go. Actually, we're gonna just stop that song because it's enough. Thanks, Vicky.
I'm telling you, you're gonna be humming in your mind for hours now.
I don't mind a good earworm now and then, but yeah, that's a lot. So yeah, ladies and gents, welcome to it. It's great to see all of you here. We're going to be chatting all about not just these tariffs that President Donald Trump is putting out there, but what does it really mean for, well, the global economy, and how does it actually filter down towards us in the crypto space? And Wendy's going to be chatting to us about that shortly. I've also found some really great information on that, which we can chat about afterwards. But some of the usual stuff. Badger, nice to see you. And yeah, this market hasn't been fantastic, has it?
It's been a bit in a bit of a lull. And yes, I saw yesterday Badger tokens being delisted. So I don't know who
It's
decided on that.
terrible. Just
So
terrible.
I'm actually quite heartbroken about that.
Well,
But
I bet.
even though I didn't have any ties with them, but yeah, it's been a bit. The market is a bit weird. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. It's definitely
Weird.
a bit weird.
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
But the great news is that yeah, we don't really care so much at Hodlnots. It just means finding those running coins is a little trickier, but and even with the delisting of all those coins that were mentioned, they haven't been delisted yet. The announcement dropped in, and we saw some.
Yeah.
We were showing the students. We were
Mm.
actually it was like 60% down on some of those coins, Firo, Cream, Badger, etc. Some of them bounced back. Firo is back up 100 and something odd percent in the last couple of hours. So plenty of
Okay.
opportunity. So the fact that we don't hodl these coins, we just scalp them and go to bed knowing our USDT at least is pretty safe is a good thing. And I do kind of feel sorry for those who are, trading in the midterm and long term. It's not a great
Mm.
market for anything except gold. Gold is gold is down a little, but despite everything else going down, you've seen the S&P 500 going down, you've seen, the altcoins, Bitcoin, everything going down. Gold still seems to be in a good space. A safe haven, as a lot of people talk about it. But I'm sure Wendy's going to be touching on that in a short while. But Marcel's going to be chatting to us shortly just around what's been happening in the den of late, around some of the great percentages grabbed despite this market. And we're going to have a contest. Our ever creative magical genie up there in the egg is the right place. She's kind of pointed up there.
It's hard
Yeah,
to
we'll give
see
her
up there.
yeah, exactly. She's going to start eating away out of that egg there. But We got a little contest, a little bit of fun, just because Vicky goes to so much effort every single time with these backgrounds. We've got a quick question for you. Down in the Q&A section down below, we want you to see if you can count how many Easter eggs are there in the background image. So while you listen to us give all this really great information, you can be distracted and count how many Easter eggs, not bunnies, Easter eggs that you see. All right. There is.
Danny. Not quite. Little less. Cooler. You're
Well,
cooler
hang on,
now.
don't give too many clues away. All right, but yes, Danny, that's yeah, that number in the hundreds is a bit off. Well done, Donisian. Okay, all right, it's close enough. There is like one, maybe two right answers because we're not going to split hairs here. See what I did there. The person or persons who get that number is going to win the Hodl 5 for 30 days, an extra 30 days to your active subscriptions. So keep guessing. All right. Double check. You've got about 40 minutes in which to make some accurate guesses. So that's running. What we're also going to do, we've got a couple of them on the call actually with our current Hodlnots foundational trading course, the live version. We have a couple of them on the call as well. And we're hoping to hear from some of them and some of the light bulbs. We've heard some really great ones so far with the course, so we're going to touch base with that. And then there's besides the Neon H, Hodlnots in lights and stuff, there's another one that's in lights just above Wendy over there. You guys might have heard it. All right, what is that LV? What are we going to be talking about? Vicky's going to be touching on that in a short while as well. So in the meantime, keep on bringing those excellent guesses coming in around how many Easter eggs that are in there. We hope that one person, maybe persons, are going to be ecstatic with those haha results.
Oh boy. And off we go.
No, that's the egg on my face. All right, moving on. Marcel, let's catch up on what's been happening with the latest in the den updates.
John, let's have a look. Okay. Like mentioned, the market is strange. This was for the week, basically the third week in March. We still actually grabbed some great percentages in the den. So here you'll see there was a 10%, almost 10%, another 9%, 7%, some Binance coins in here, some MXC. Here someone grabbed 8.04% in just under 2 minutes while recording a training video. So I wonder who that was. It's probably you, John. And then here was a 20%er, 4%, 5%, 11.3, 5%, 5.81. So here was a 40-second trade, 4% in and out in 40 seconds. So that's basically what we do here at Hodlnots. We scalp and we in and out in seconds. Okay. Then looking at the following one, this was 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, basically, the market was a little bit slower, but we still managed to grab consistent, profitable trades. It's just the percentages that was a little bit lower here and there, but not too shabby, I would say. There was like a 28% in there. There was a 10%, 4%, loads of 4%ers, 2%ers that, and like we've said in the past, they do tend to add up. If you do 2.5% trades on a day, that's more than 10% that you've profited in a day, and there's literally no bank that will give you that kind of interest per day.
Okay.
So yeah, there was some smaller ones like I mentioned, but by no means should we be worried in this market with scalping. We can still produce the goods, and that's it from my side, John.
Fantastic. It's like crossing over for the weather report, kind of seeing what the market sentiment is like. We're going to get you a green screen and you can
Saving my voice.
all these fronts coming in, basically fronts of the mountains, right? That's what we're looking for. Great stuff. Thanks, Marcel. It's yeah, we've seen some big drops in some of the larger cap coins, general market sentiment. We've been chatting about it on our course. We've been chatting about trends and back of the mountain and what all Bitcoin needs to do really to really start going up again. And we've seen, a lot of these ETFs, exchange traded funds, been talking about in one of the previous episodes. We've spoken about strategy, which was formerly MicroStrategy, and how Michael Saylor and them, BlackRock, all of them are just buying up Bitcoin with every single dip. But we have to look at something called macroeconomics, economics. Sorry, I'm not an economist. I did study a bit of it at university, but what happens when a country like the United States starts to impose really large tariff rates on imported goods? All right, we've seen what's happened with the market. We've seen with the stock market. Now, Wendy has said she's going to be telling us a bit more about this today as to what these tariff rates or these increases are how they affect us in the crypto market. So, Wendy, whenever you're ready, and the rest of you, keep on looking at that background image when you see it and see if you can guess that number. Double check some of those numbers. Some of them are a little low, but keep those guesses coming.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, John. Yeah, we wanted to bring to you some updated information that is relevant to the financial markets and the markets of cryptocurrency, because what happens in the rest of the world does affect the financial and cryptocurrency markets. So right now, the hot topic of the day is tariffs. And what's going on? There you hear lots of talk about tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. So we're going to try on this 4-H happy hour from Hodlnots to demystify what's going on with the tariffs, Trump, and crypto, and how it's going to affect us, or possibilities of the upcoming, and explain it all a little bit so you understand what's going on. So basically, let's get into the real bottom bare bones, or what are tariffs. So for those people who don't know, in very simple terms, we like to simplify everything in Hodlnots. So in simple terms, a tariff is actually a tax that's imposed upon goods and services that are imported into a country, essentially making those imported goods more expensive than locally produced goods. So we put a little tariff on there, or a little tax on there. And tariffs are taxes or duties that are levied on these imported goods from other countries. So this is what a tariff is. Now, how do tariffs work? So let's get into that. A country, we're going to basically focus on USA because they're the ones doing all the tariffs right now. But a country imposes a tariff on any imported good that, let's just use example of an automobile, for example, because we do import different foreign automobiles into America. So when this happens, the price of that imported good increases by whatever the levy is, or the tax, or the tariff, which will lead to higher prices for the consumer. So when you buy it, they have to make up for those fees. And so that tax on a higher price to all the goods that are imported. So it can lead to potentially reducing trade as well between the countries, because if your taxes are too high, they're not going to want to send their goods over, because they're not going to be able to sell them for enough money to make a profit. So this is where the high tariffs that we're talking about now come into play. So if the USA was what they originally did on the 5th of this month, so everything happened here in April, they imposed a 10% tariff on all imported goods, on all countries. Okay, so this is where it all started, and that's when Trump announced that it was going to be, happening 10% across the board. So now if USA imposes a 10% tariff on, let's just say, the automobiles, the price of an automobile will increase by at least 10% when it enters into the USA, making it more expensive than buying an actual automobile that's produced within the USA. And this is what the hope is. So this is what we're going to be looking at in the future, is all the countries that import different things to the United States and how it affects all these other countries. So who benefits from tariffs? Well, on the negative impact is both the individual or the consumer and the businesses are negatively impacted by the higher prices. Both of them are going to pay it. So in the positive, the USA or the country would be protecting its domestic industries by benefiting by being about to sell these more of their own products. So basically, what that means is they're going to look internally into their own country to be able to sell and buy and manufacture their own products instead of going outside. So they're actually protecting the industries and the workforces within the country. So on the positive as well as the government benefits by collecting additional revenue from these tariffs. And this is what Trump is talking about right now, is that we'll get into that shortly. So I got that on another slide. So I'm going to get into that quite a bit. What is the impact of these tariffs? The tariffs can raise revenue and it can help increase domestic production and create jobs. Why? Because everybody's producing internally instead of waiting for things to ship into the country. So, but at the same time, it can impact foreign global production and cause what's called stagflation. So I know a lot of you would say, what the heck is stagflation? We've heard about inflation and depression and everything else, but what is stagflation? Stagflation is when it's persistent high inflation combined with high unemployment and stagnant demands in the country's economy. So this is what the rest of the world is looking at, is possible stagflation for the entire rest of the world. So this is why there's such a big uproar and a talk about what's going on. So what actually is the situation going on right now? So I want to bring you up to date that this week, President Trump in the USA imposed an across the board 10% tariff on all US trading partners. And he called it Liberation Day because this is when they were playing the big cards and they decided that they were going to go all in. Now, China, India, European Union, Vietnam, and a lot of other countries now have much higher tariffs imposed to reduce the USA's dependence on foreign production and foreign capital and reciprocating the tariffs imposed on them on the USA. So a lot of these countries have been imposing tariffs on the US for a long time, and we've been paying them. So now Trump has said, well, we're reciprocating, meaning whatever you're charging us, we're going to charge you back. You know, we're the ones getting the raw end of the stick. And now we're going to come around and we're going to say, if you want 10%, we're going to get 10%. And so now everybody's coming to the table to negotiate, or most countries are. So the new tariffs will significantly complicate the Federal Reserve. So this is what a lot of people need to know, because the Federal Reserve now has the job to squash the inflation and avoid an economic depression and a collapse. At this time, they will likely hold off on lowering rates to cushion the economy while they assess potential impacts on tariffs on inflation. So what happens is, you can see my nice little arrows here, but when the monetary policies are eased, this will in turn bring down interest rates, they will decline, and the currency is then weakened. But in turn, if it does the opposite, if the monetary policies are tightened, the currency is stronger and the interest rates will increase again. So what is happening, what we need to watch for on the negative side is a possible trade war, which is actually what's happening right now. I made this slide a couple days ago, and we were up against a possible trade war happening between China and the United States, because China is not coming to the table and they're not playing nice. And they've decided that they were going to impose more tariffs on the USA, 34%. And then what happened was Trump said, no, 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 you need to get rid of that 34% extra tariff. If you don't, we're going to come back and retaliate. And that's exactly what happened. So they imposed more tariffs, and now we're at 104%. So China and they are not backing down. And there's good and bad with that. So we're gonna look into that. So what has happened with the Trump action is Canada, Europe, Japan, and China, they all tried to fight Trump's tariffs. And Canada imposed a 25% surcharge then back at the USA in retaliation on energy exports, Ontario to the United States. And then Trump threatened to double tariffs on US steel and aluminium, or aluminum if you're in America. And the result was Canada retracted the surcharge and everything was smoothed out. Now, Europe warned that they would impose tariffs on billions of dollars of US goods. Trump warned that he might end the US costly military support for Europe. So, as a result, the EU is now left in quite concern, and they're still negotiating. Some people are saying that it's China, but it's really a Hong Kong-based corporation, is now trying to bypass the tariffs by buying up a bunch of US companies, kind of going around it a different way. So they have bought up Milwaukee Tool Company and brands like Ryobi, Hoover, and Dirt Devil, and some other licenses on other brands of tools, which most of the people in the USA still believe that they're USA owned brands, but they're not. They're actually owned by foreign countries. So Trump then decided to beat that by signing a memorandum to restrict the Chinese investments in sensitive US assets so that they couldn't have the market on this. So Trump is now also considering providing tariff relief to actual US manufacturers to, in order, ramp up jobs within the United States and make America great again. So where are we at today? This is what's happening because of these tariffs that are imposed. The stock market has declined. Jaguar and Land Rover vehicles have been temporarily halted, affecting Britain's auto industry impact. Other auto industries may follow suit. China has Buick, Lincoln, and Volvos, some of them. The questions remain around, could Canada join the EU? That's up for debate. USA wants Canada to become part of the United States. Oil prices have also dropped. Russia's market cap has dropped 23.7 billion just over the last couple of days. Argentina is now trying to go zero. India, Vietnam, and South Korea this week have all gone into trade negotiations to get good deals working quickly. The EU has offered to drop their auto tariffs from 10% to 2.5%, and also promising to buy American energy and weaponry, and offering to abolish reciprocal tariffs on industrial goods, which is a really good sign that there is some serious negotiations on the table with some of these countries. Japan has tried everything. Trump hasn't been moving so far. China is the last one in, and they're really playing it all wrong. They think they're playing it right. They're telling Trump that he's blackmailing with their tariffs, and it's compounding upon compounding. And as John said earlier, this is not about economics anymore. This is really about a war of wills and who's going to win. And so now Trump won't back down and China won't back down. And Trump has now imposed 104% tariff on China. But where everybody thinks this is going to be a real problem for China, it's not, because most of their capital or comes from, only 2% comes from outside. Most of theirs is really domestic. So this is interesting. And this is my thoughts. I'm going to share with you after reading a bunch of different articles and keeping up with this because it's very important to cryptocurrency. But the USA debt is basically a Ponzi scheme. You know, everybody knows for a long time that they're printing dollar bills, and the debt has always been out of control with the USA. They are a debt-based society. The entire world is on this, and they're just printing dollar bills. There's no real money out there. They're just printing, printing, printing. Nixon detached the USD in 1971, and income tax was then introduced and used for the money that the government needed. This is when the income tax keeps going up and up and up and up. They need more money, money, money. So the USA has to now fix the debt issue, and this is what Trump is doing. So everybody needs to understand that assets, the cryptocurrency is a deflationary asset, while the US dollar is an inflationary asset. So what has Trump done with the USA is he's created the Bitcoin reserve. And we went over that on, I believe, the last meeting that we had. So if you missed it, please go back and watch that on the Bitcoin reserve. He is now declaring the USA as the crypto capital of the world. for a reason. Why? Because he's pro crypto. The USA has the tariffs implemented on Liberation Day, and Trump had two choices. He could have either moved really slowly on this and built up on the tariffs and worked deals around, or he could do a sudden impact. And that's exactly what he chose to do, was the sudden impact. Now, the reaction of that is the stock markets declined, which then forced money out of the stock market. And what happens is most people that are in the stock market are very wealthy people. Okay. So now all of the wealth was crushed, which did not really affect much of the middle class. But the stock market declining forced the wealthy investors' money to go back into the treasuries. Now, what happened there was that pushed the Federal Reserve to either lower interest rates, which in turn helps the middle class, or go into a depression. So, whereby the wealthy then they start talking to the middle class, and they start trying to manipulate the middle class to cause distractions. And all this time they're buying the dip. So most of the people that we've been talking to and that we have connections with, they're all sitting around buying the dip out because they know cryptocurrency is going to explode in the end. So this is what's happening: is the wealthy have been hurt. And this is where all the money is going back into the treasuries and forcing the Federal Reserve to call the cards. So this is what's really been going on. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that there's a short-term pain. We're all feeling it, okay? But there's massive long-term gains. Most everybody out there, if you talk about it, unless they're one of the top wealthy people, they want you to think the other way. The massive long-term gains are coming. They're fixing the USA debt problem. The vision that Trump has is to eliminate the income taxes. The tariffs and bringing in the money in the tariffs will eliminate the income taxes and lower overall the money that has to be paid in by the Americans. So he's really trying to make America great again. The solid assets right now, from everything that I've read, are gold, and that's exactly what John talked about earlier. Was gold. The price of gold hasn't been hurt. Bitcoin and XRP. They plan to do XRP and use the XRP to wipe out some of that national debt with the Bitcoin reserves. So right now, 60 countries have now come to the negotiating table. One of the big problems is that Japan, South Korea, and Vietnam, they're in possible trade talks, but nothing's been really finalized yet. China, you need to know, is holding out, which is going to delay the markets coming back up as long as China holds out. And they are stabilizing right now, but the war that's going on between the two of them and what all happens in the financial markets will depend on how this all plays out with China and the USA. So again, USA has now imposed 104% tariffs today. What also happens is that you need to know is that it hasn't really affected as greatly as some of the news media is going to be talking about. The blue chip S&P 500 closed only at 0.2% down. Apple is very heavy into China, so their supply chains have definitely dropped. You're going to feel some crunch on your telephones, or your mobile phones. They dropped 3.7%, and heavy tech, NASDAQ, ended up only 0.1% down. I've added this list too, so that you can see it for those people who want to see a full list of the reciprocal tariffs. And you can see that there's a lot of countries on this list. I couldn't hardly even fit them on the slide. I had to make 2 columns on all these are over 10%. So, and there's quite a few of them here, especially Vietnam is going to take a nice little hit on that. So here's who is hardest hit by the proposed U.S. tariffs. And you can see by the color, the darker the red, the harder they're going to be hit. And so this was from Reuters from April 7th. So it's a nice graphic. Lots of people like to see a visual. But this is what the possibility is for China. It only amounts to about 2% of China's gross domestic product. So China says it's not going to bother us because they have a huge domestic market to fall back on. Only 2% is out. So it's not going to be a difficult thing for them. Among the nations that are going to be hardest hit by these tariffs are China, Vietnam, and Cambodia. And I was a little bit shocked to see all the things and the products that are coming from these different countries. So China, again, Apple makes most of its hardware in China and some in India. H&M manufactures most of its clothing, so you're going to see a heavy hit on those clothing stores because they get them from China and Bangladesh. Vietnam, the Gap is an American clothing retailer that also operates Old Navy, Banana Republic, and Athleta. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. They source about 21% of their clothing from Vietnam. So Vietnam's hit pretty heavy on these tariffs. So these are the stores that you're going to be wanting to look at and see. About half of Nike, this is huge, 39% of Adidas trainers are all made in Vietnam. So your Nike prices are probably going to go up quite a bit. So if you really like those Nike shoes or Adidas shoes, you might see a big nick in the Nike market. Samsung also has a significant production in operations in Vietnam, and we know a lot of products are made from Samsung. So here are the current news affairs for you. The tariffs and the trade tensions will continue. This is where it comes in play with cryptocurrency. And this is what we're focusing on right now, is that cryptocurrencies may continue to experience quite a bit of volatility. Why? Because we've got this trade war going on that's not about economics, but about a tug of war. The investors often turn to cryptocurrencies during times of financial uncertainty. So if the investors are turning to cryptocurrencies, this could spike cryptocurrency. So we're watching 50-50 either way. What happens? The monetary policy, central banks are going to come into action right now, especially those under or with the U.S. Federal Reserve. They could highly influence the market. So if banks tighten monetary policy, which could reduce liquidity in the markets, it will negatively impact speculative assets like cryptocurrency. So we need to really watch and see what the Federal Reserve is doing. The adoption and regulation, long-term growth in cryptocurrency prices with positive regulatory developments or major companies embracing cryptocurrencies could definitely drive up these prices. So this is a real positive. The market sentiment, always. Cryptocurrencies often see price surges when the investor sentiment turns positive. So we really need to see what's happening in the couple weeks to come. But it's very, very good for you as a consumer to please pay close attention to the ongoing tariff battle and watch for the markets to rebound. That's what we're looking for. We're seeing that it's only a temporary setback, and that the pain is being felt immediate, but hopefully in the very near future, it's not going to be too much longer. So let's keep an eye on the news and what's happening in cryptocurrency, and hopefully we're at the bottom shooting up. That's what we're all wanting to see. So we hope you enjoyed this 4-H Happy Hour Hangout tariff brief, and we hope you have a happy Easter holiday. I'm going to turn it back over to you now, John.
Yeah, thank you for that, Wendy. It is interesting, and again, I'm not big into economics and that kind of thing, but when it comes to how it affects us in the space that is the crypto industry, it is super important. And some of these tariff spikes are going to affect us. Like you were talking about the production of Apple and certain brands of shoes,
Yeah.
etc., etc. And those countries are importing or exporting from out of their country into the US, which is a bit of a weird thing, and they're getting hit quite hard. Vietnam has actually dropped their tariff of US goods down to 0%, hoping that the US would do the same, and it's kind of shifting in that direction. So there's some good news for Vietnam, at least, and all those factories. But back home here in South Africa, being hit by a 30% tariff increase. And
Oh,
one of the
goodness.
neighboring countries, actually, it's within our borders of all things, is Lesotho. They've been hitting hardest, besides China, by 50%. It's the 22nd poorest country in the world, and they're being hit by 50% tariff by the US because yeah, it's interesting. A lot of these countries are going to struggle. It's all good and well, like Canada and Mexico and France and wherever else. I mean, these countries could do very well on their own, but tiny little countries. I saw even on your list it was Nauru NAURE.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it was there
right.
too.
Yeah, that's huge. And how these guys work it out is beyond me. Again, economics is not for me, but for all of us in terms of the consumption, all these goods and stuff that we get to enjoy, we don't think, oh, it's made in another country, and oh no, there's going to be an increase in price on that. Is it though? This is the thing. Many times when there are tariff spikes, the consumers generally absorb it. So we'll see price increase of those goods. Sometimes, like for instance, like Walmart, if they're importing a shoe for
Mm,
$4 from Vietnam, and now there's a percentage increase. Often those companies like Walmart will go back to the producer back in the other country and say, well, listen, you're gonna have to absorb this cost, or yeah. But many times it's us, it's the consumer. Us is in the crypto space, we've seen this volatility. Do you guys remember back in January when just after Trump was inaugurated and he started talking about these tariff rates that were coming? Well, we did see there was a bit of a tumble, nothing too major. I think in the bigger scheme of things with Bitcoin and some of the altcoins, they kind of held the ground for a little bit, but we saw the stock markets, the S&P 500, Dow Jones, everything's starting to go down in a big way, and then this cascade. So, do you guys, I mean, I've seen this one comment already. Does anybody have any questions or comments around what this might mean for you, or anything, or any of the information that Wendy's presented? Pop it in there. One of the comments is from Danny saying, my main concern is the value of the dollar. The value of my portfolio currently is in euros because he's in Europe. It goes down as the
yeah,
dollar goes down due to inflation. Now, most of our cryptos that we hold, well, most of our crypto we hold is in USDT or some sort of peg to the US dollar, which is tied to the euro.
correct.
Yeah, it is a concern. Hey, Wendy.
Absolutely, it is. And what you need to see is things are going to slowly go in there in the next couple weeks. And somebody had asked me as well, how is all this going to start and take place with these tariffs? And the way I'm understanding it is that when the goods are loaded on a vessel, that's when the taxes hit. So we're going to still see cargo arriving in the USA, and it'll still be under the old regime. But once it gets loaded from here on forward, now that they've actually implemented these tariffs, it's going to be cut off date now. But what's already been sent, I believe that they're going to be allowing it in. So we'll probably feel the crunch in the coming weeks. But the U.S. dollar and the value against other currencies is something that we're definitely going to have to watch because that affects everybody and how they get paid, whether the euro or the USD or like the rand, or for us over here in Australia, the Asian countries, we use other currency as well. But everything is always pegged against that US dollar, along with crypto, is exactly what Danny said. So, yeah, it is a definite concern.
Mm. There's another question as well. Thanks, Lucy, for the question. Is it safe for us to continue trading crypto while the market is in a downtrend? That's a great question. You're in the right place. Here is Hodlnots. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Marcel, do you reckon? Sorry, if you're okay to answer this, do you think it's a good to be trading crypto if the market's in a downtrend?
Sorry, guys, my geyser just burst.
Oh,
Okay,
oh no.
No,
that's
I
in a
was I
definite
was
downtrend.
I was just quickly trying to tell someone where to turn the water off. So
Oh no,
apologies,
if you need to
I
go
didn't hear your question, John.
oh, okay, no. If you need to go deal with it, that's fine. Sorry to hear that.
Now
But
you can just repeat the question. I'll deal with it in 2 minutes.
so,
Sorry about
so
that.
there was a question, is it safe for us to continue trading crypto while the market is in a downtrend?
Yeah, I think so. I think unless something major happens and we see like uh, stable coins starting to depeg and starting to lose value, I think we're still okay. I think once we see stable coins being unstable, then that's when I'll be a little bit worried.
Hmm,
We were
absolutely.
actually just, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Go
go for
ahead.
it. Thanks.
We were
Go ahead,
actually
Dickie.
just on that topic today because in the course, we have a course going on at the moment, a live course, and we were talking about time frames. And we were looking at the higher time frames going, oh no, all in a downtrend. But the students learn today that that's okay for scalping. And that's why we actually love scalping, because even if they're in a downtrend, we're in for 2 minutes and we don't really care after that. So we can actually just do 2 minutes, 2 minutes, hop to another coin, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. And, we're still able to trade, as John mentioned at the beginning of the call, where the long-term day traders are going, oh, so that's really interesting, that question. So I would not be long-term, well, I would not be day trading, long-term trading if I could help it at the moment. I'd be scalping, for sure.
Mm, absolutely. Um, Sharon, I like your comment. It's basically one person shaking the whole world in a way.
Yeah,
And I don't know,
In a
yeah,
way.
is this a good thing, to shake up? I mean, I was thinking about it earlier when I was reading some articles, and I was like, we just go from, one regime to another regime, one president to another president, in all these different countries and stuff, and there isn't any like major shakeouts. So is it a good thing? I don't know. Is it kind of like a reset? Is it kind of wake up for the world to be like, hey, you can't be reliant on the US and you should be reliant on your neighboring countries, within Africa or within Europe, or et cetera, et cetera. So it is an interesting concept. But the biggest
I,
thing, and this goes back to Vusi's question that Marcel and Vicky were answering, um, is how does it affect us in terms of crypto? So there's a really interesting article as well. I can share with all of you. It's from Binance, funny enough, and they did some really in-depth research. Now, I just want to just bring up a few key points from that. And because of that announcement in January with the tariffs and stuff, the crypto market cap dropped about 25%. That's about $1 trillion in value it dropped. And that's where we saw all the alts and Bitcoin dropping. We saw Bitcoin drop down about 19% since then. We've seen Ethereum drop about 44%, meme coins 58, AI coins 52%. That's huge. Now, a lot of people, what happens whenever you have political turmoil, or economic turmoil, is that people sell off just to be, to get out of risk. There's this massive sell-off, and so everybody's selling their stocks, and that's why we've seen the S&P 500 go down and the crypto markets, everything
Correct.
done to drop down. It's this classic risk-off behavior that they talk about. And if these trade wars carry on, we're going to see us as retailers and even institutions, we're going to see a drop in the demand, for people putting money basically into it. And even if we do see rate cuts, we've seen the federal banks around the world dropping rate cuts by 25 basis points a few times. We might we might see a bit more of that. There is that what Wendy was talking about, that concern around inflation, because with import taxes coming up, prices of everyday goods starts to go up. And then what happens is, there's none of the countries are producing their own stuff anymore because they're worried about all these taxes they have to pay. But inflation goes up, and this is where this great term stagflation, stagnant inflation, basically, comes into it. And what happens is, because people don't have, even if there's a rate cut, people got more money and can maybe go into crypto. They're not wanting to. They want to stay away from risk until things stabilize. And what they might do is put their money into gold, like we've spoken about, this safe haven, this concept of gold. So, what do we as the world, as traders, need to see? We need to see the market stabilize. How's that gonna happen? Well, hopefully the worst of these trade tariffs is behind us. All right. If we don't have any more surprises, then things should start to settle down and some of the confidence might
Correct.
start to come back. That's great. Um, so we've got to be very careful. We've got to, like Wendy says, keep an eye on things. A lot of people are being risk averse at the moment, but as Hodlnots, we're scalp trading, we're getting in and out. Everyone with long-term portfolios probably below where they got in, and there's concerns and everything, but there are options. Put your money into gold, don't put your money anywhere, or just learn how to scalp trade. I think that's that's a good start. Um,
I can tell you, John, not to interrupt, but I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are in crypto that are just, they've got some cash on the side and they're waiting for the bottom.
mm,
They're watching and they're looking at the indicators, and then you're
mm,
using the huddle fire and they are waiting for that bottom to come in,
mm.
and they're going to buy some more because they know where it's headed in the long term.
Absolutely. Well, we know that there will be an up point at some point. And yeah, you're right. The huddle fight definitely does help, looking at the 12-hour, the day, start to ladder in. If you guys are not unsure what the huddle fight is about, join our weekly call around that as well. And we there is opportunity, but not everybody has cash on the side necessarily. Some people are holding long term, and that's good. Look at the people like Strategy and all these other institutions that are just buying up and holding because we know that Bitcoin is a non-inflationary asset. It doesn't experience inflation. It never does. And that's a good thing. This is why a lot of people are starting to look at Bitcoin as an option because if inflation in general in all of your countries continues to stay high, Bitcoin might be more interesting for people because Bitcoin doesn't experience inflation. And we might start to see not just gold, but Bitcoin becoming a safe haven as well for that. So what we're going to see if money starts going into Bitcoin again because it's a safe haven, what'll happen is money will start going into the altcoins again. So it's always Bitcoin, right? We always talk about following Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes down, alts go down. Bitcoin starts to go up, the alts start to go up. So using the HODL fire, looking at, for those of you who've done the course, you know where the back of the mountain is, where the front of the mountain starts beginning, and where we want to start trading, and when things start to look positive, that's great because then we can start to buy in again and follow Bitcoin. But a lot of these countries, I mean, sorry, institutions and stuff, they're just buying and they're buying. We all know that Bitcoin is a store of value, and we know that Bitcoin is going to go to 1 million one day, definitely, right? Not tomorrow, but in the meantime, all of this political upheaval and all this tariffs and stuff is shaking up the market. But people are going to start to realize that Bitcoin is the way to go. So I'll drop you guys that link for the article in the chat shortly. We've got a few other things to chat about. And yeah, just do your homework, be careful. And once Bitcoin starts to turn and people start to realize that the worst is behind us in terms of the tariffs, Bitcoin is going to start to push up. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be next week. I don't think it's going to be next month. I think we're going to start to see Bitcoin turning around a little later. And I'm just looking at the indicators that we teach on the course. Quickly, a couple of you are very close in terms of that number of Easter eggs. All right, one or two of you a little way over. Check those numbers again. But yeah, we've got another little announcement, Vicky, just in terms of what's coming up later next month.
Yes, we do. So, as was hinted at the beginning of the call, it's not just all about Easter on this background. We have an LV, we have a little bee on a keychain, we have a rabbit in a hat, we have some dice. Anyone want to take a guess what that all is about? Because on the back of our very successful time in Sydney, Bitcoin Trending Forecast is going to Las Vegas this year. So in May, yay! In May, there is a big, I'm just going to share my screen. There is a Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas, and it's the 27th to the 29th of May, and Bitcoin Trending Forecast is going, which means Hodlnots will be there too. Yay! So this is the largest convention or event for Bitcoin in the States. Last year, Trump was there and Kennedy was there. They have announced some of the people that will be there at the moment. So this is this year's lineup so far, but they keep adding people every day, basically. They'll add someone else. So it'll be interesting to see who's there this year. So if anyone happens to be in the States, Canada, hint, hint, not too far away from Vegas, we will be there and we'd love to see you there. And that's actually coming up. That's like 6.5 weeks away. So it's actually not that far until we're there. So we're quite excited about that. We had a great time in Sydney. We met a lot of people, and a lot of people that we met are doing the course now as well, which is interesting. So we'd love to see anyone that's in the States or Canada or anyone that can get over to Vegas, see us at our booth and maybe at some events on the side as well. So we're quite excited about that. You heard it here nearly first.
Yeah, Hodlnots and all the Bitcoin trending forecasts are going to be there. And we've been talking to the world, yeah, like Vicky was saying, the world's largest crypto conference, basically all centered around Bitcoin. And we're going to be talking with, yeah, you saw some of those names on there. We're going to invite older Michael Saylor from Strategy over to our booth and come have a chat amongst
100%. Sure.
Great people as well. We're expecting, well, the conference itself expecting between 30 and 35,000 people over those 3 days, and we will be there. So we're looking forward to that. So for any of those of you who are in the Western Hemisphere, or feel like flying over to Vegas, come and join us. It's going to be some fun times. Cool. It's been much fun times as well. Currently, we are busy. We're almost, I think almost halfway, Vicky, with our live foundational trading course. And we've got a couple of those students currently on the call, and we've asked them for some of their light bulb moments so
Mm.
far in this course. Vic, I know you did mention one a little earlier in terms of that the time frames and stuff, but you want to mention one or two of the others?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one that really stood out for me because I struggled with this when I first began as well was even though I was getting great reports from various people, I didn't really understand what I was doing. So, we've had two people comment on this now. They get great reports, they understand when it's being presented, buy, sell, but they end up buying at the wrong time and selling at the wrong time anyway for whatever reason, and I was doing that too. So as soon as they did the course and they could actually see on the day chart this is going down for days, and start to read the indicators, they were making better choices to buy and sell. And in fact, one on not this course but our last course in January said, you know what? When I saw the top come in on the hodl fire and all the indicators on the Hodlnots indicator was telling me sell, I sold. And boy, didn't he make the right decision because the market went down, 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 down. So I think that's the comment that stood out for me the most at the moment, because we're teaching people, even if you get the great reports and the signals, you have a bit more control over your own destiny, and you can read those indicators and actually buy and sell more successfully. So that really stood out for me as one of them.
Yeah.
What else was there, John?
Well, I mean, one of them from last course has stuck with me for quite some time. I don't think the person's on the call now, but having seen the back of the mountain on the day chart for Bitcoin. So for those of you
Mm.
hodlots, you remember what back of the mountain is? Seeing that, that person sold all of their long-term hold positions, and I think has saved about 55% in terms of
Mm.
losses because of that. So that's great to see. One of the constants from the sorry, one of the comments from one of the current students. I don't want to mention names because I don't make them feel embarrassed. But saying I've never realized that there were better areas to trade in. The front of the mountain concept is a total game changer for me. Uh, that is so very true. All right, so knowing when to trade and where to trade safely is key. There was another one here.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh, go
yeah, go
ahead.
for it.
Yeah, I actually like the one because we really pride ourselves on this, and I really am happy that people notice. It's that a lot of online courses, we're not all online. We do have an online course now, self-paced, but we're talking about the live course. It is online in quotation marks. We do it over Zoom. We have a Telegram chat, as most people know on the call, but a lot of the times when you do an online course, you're just left to your own devices. And this person said they're held accountable. I mean, we say, "Where's your homework? Where's your homework? Where's your homework?" It's almost like it is that we want people to learn. It's not just buy the course, off you go. We actually want people to succeed, and that's being recognized. So I'm actually really proud that that's being recognized because we really try very hard to get that across, that
Yeah,
we really do want you to succeed. We're not just, here's the course, goodbye. So I
yeah.
really like that comment. So thank you for that
Yeah, we
to the
we don't
person
like
who
to be
said that.
strict and shut at people just because, but it's the same as well for the self-paced course. I mean, there's homework and all the options for people to join those live weekly live Zoom calls as well. Um, and one of my favorites so far, and this is a standout student in this course so far, has said, I came into this course with zero crypto experience. This course goes into great detail around all of the concepts that are taught, and the way it's been set out makes everything easy to understand. I love it. All right. Cool. Well, great. Thank you for everybody who's on the course so far. But that's the live course at the moment. The next one's in June. The self-paced course is there for anyone to go and check out. We'll drop in the link in the chat itself now for those of you who'd like to go check out any of those. But checking out, we've been looking at it's getting close to the end of the hour. I see some people are changing their minds. Some people are counting
Yes.
more eggs than ever before. We've got three people who are spot on the money. Vicky, you want to explain what's going on? We're closing entries now, and we can announce those winners.
Yeah. So do you mean where they are in
Yeah, you can
the
tell everybody where they
background?
are, and then we'll announce the 2, 3 people that have actually got it.
Sure, yeah, I'm actually laughing because there's 23, no, there's 6, okay, and it's the same person, so that's actually quite funny. Yeah, so okay, so on the upper left-hand corner, this is probably the hardest one to find. In the little H, there's a little yellow Easter egg on the left-hand side of the H, right in the middle there. And then one of the tulips is an egg. It's a yellow tulip. Then above Marcel's head, we have a garnish of an egg in one of the glasses. And then there's obviously a purple egg behind that martini glass. Moving along where I am, there's 3 eggs. I'm in one of them. Hello, up here. I'm in one of the eggs up here. Moving along Barney, there is an egg behind Barney. So that egg is quite hidden. And then moving down, there is an egg in the plant. There's an egg behind the plant. Moving down again, near the computer near Wendy, there's a green egg down there. There's a little bit of contention of this next one, so we are accepting 2 answers. So on the plate, there is a whole egg, but then there are 2 halves. So we're thinking, is that 1 egg cut in half, or is that 2 eggs and you've taken a bite out of each egg? So that can be either 1 or 2. And then moving across again to where the hot cross buns are, there is a gold egg there. Behind John, there's a basket with 2 eggs in that. And I think that's actually it.
I
don't think I've
you
missed
mentioned the one
any.
in the tulips, though, and the one above.
Yes,
Yes.
I did mention that. Yep, I mentioned that. So we will accept either 15 or 16, depending on
It was
the
16 and 17, wasn't it?
16 and 17. Sorry, yes, 16 and 17, depending on if someone's eaten half an egg. Ugh, could you imagine each, or if that egg was broken in half. So well done to the people that said 16 or 17.
Okay.
And I'm just seeing who was that. Let's have a look.
Donasian, and I thought there was one more. There we go. And Beatrice.
Okay, well.
Well,
yeah.
Mark, you've thrown in a late answer after Vicky with the answers.
No, Mark.
Sorry for you, but nice try. But yeah, we've seen all come in. Mateus, they're all over. But or Daphne, whoever is on the call. Yeah, well, so well done to Beatrice, to Donatien, and to Gerard for correctly guessing. If you wouldn't mind, Vicky, do they need to drop a support ticket, or what is best?
Yes, let's drop a support ticket, and you've all won 30 days Hodl Fire. So happy Easter!
Yes.
A couple of weeks early, a week early.
Absolutely. Well, what's not early and what is timeless is that information that Wendy was speaking about today, ladies and gents. Thank you, Wendy, for presenting that. There are some things that really don't affect us as much, but you have to think about the bigger picture. Basically, will people have enough money to buy crypto? That's the question we really need to answer. And how's that going to be affected? And that might be import taxes. People might be like, I need to have the latest iPhone. I'm rather going to buy out the latest iPhone with, massive price increase, and I'm not going to buy any money into crypto. We know that crypto is the future. It's our present as well. And yeah, so we need to just be aware of how much cash is going to be available. We don't want to see any more surprises, President Trump. Please, no more tariff surprises. Everybody can kind of find their new feet and things can stabilize. And hopefully people realize that because Bitcoin is not inflationary, it's going to become the safe haven. It is almost getting there, similar to gold in the future. Of course, it will have short-term swings, but overall, Bitcoin is going to be up. So let's keep our eyes on things. And hopefully there's not too much volatility. Although, as the scalpers and Hodlnots, we love the volatility. Firo and all these other coins that are giving 100%. We like that kind of thing. But in general, we see that crypto market up. Fantastic. Thanks, Wendy. That was really good.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. And Vicky for the fun on the Easter eggs, and for Marcel for bringing us all the good trades. We're still trading both ways, both directions. So let's...
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was one of the comments Donatien had to make, and that's when we were talking about, should we still be trading crypto in this volatile downtrending market? You can learn how to trade shorts. Come and join our course, and then later on you'll be joining the large And that's where we start looking at basic short trading there with Wendy. So there is an opportunity, up or down, either way. But as scalp traders, we're getting in, getting out, and after a few minutes, and our USDT is fine, even though Bitcoin and everything else is coming down. So we're making profits. Cool. Fantastic. Thanks, Marcel. Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, John.
Great.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, everybody else, for being here.
Until we meet again. Until we meet again. Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter, everybody. And yeah, we'll be chatting a little bit more about Bitcoin Las Vegas in our next Hodlnots Happy Hour Hangout, because we'll just be a few days away from that actual event as well. So lots of exciting things to come up. Keep your eyes posted on all of the Hodlnots and Bitcoin Trainer Forecast socials around all of us being there at Bitcoin Las Vegas. We're looking forward to seeing you all on the next 4H. And yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great day.